Welcome to the Haunted Hangover podcast. I'm Louie, and I'm joined by
Manny.
Ooh,
I got a little southern.
Yeah, I know.
Southern.
Did you eat a little? Did you have some Cajun spice?
A little twang
on your dinner tonight? A little sprinkle of some, a little twang on it. Is that what people from the South call that? A little twang. They put a little twang on their voice.
I don't know. I'm not from the South. I don't know.
Sorry, people from the South that might listen to this show. If we're two dudes from New York, from New York City, are offending you we fucking have accents too to people. I'm sure
we do, dude. When I used to do the show with Eric, the What Lurks on Channel X, show, we had 2 or 3 reviews that were just like, why is it all these fucking guys are all a bunch of goombas from New York? Why is it always a bunch of tough guys talking? Like
a bunch of, oh God, that's horrible.
That's what it said. It's always a bunch of fucking Goodfella sounding guys. Why is it always these fucking guys talking? And
you know what?
Listen back, and you know what it is? Eric has a very thick,
he
got
does.
that real. So when I'm with him, like mine gets worse. Like I get real, like, you know what I'm talking about?
You know what's funny? Eric has been on our show.
Yes.
So there you go. He was on the El Super Bisto show with us randomly.
Okay, you know.
Hey, I seen it.
Yeah, so me and him drinking, doing the show after 10, 15 minutes, my New York starts to come out. I start throwing W's in places where there's no W.
You start throwing W's where there's no W's.
There's no W in New York, but that's how we say it.
This is so dumb, but yes. You know what? That has not popped up on the show. Like I don't think anyone's mentioned like us having a New York accent on the show. So I'm waiting for it.
Now you'll get some reviews. You know what? These fucking guys are right.
If you think we have New York accents, if anyone on the Haunted Hangover squad has a thick New York accent and we don't realize it, please let us know. Welcome to the Accent Podcast. We're going to talk about the Boston one today on the show. The Boston accent.
Gotta add an A and an H to everything. Boston.
Sorry for the Boston listeners.
Nah, fuck the Boston listeners.
Oh no.
Fuck that.
I do not condone this. That's Manny who's saying that. We love you, Boston people. Just come on, man.
Oh, I didn't say I didn't love him. I just fucked that accent.
Not an Affleck fan. Don't say that to Poltony. Chris would not appreciate that. So he would not appreciate. He loves Ben Affleck, and he loves the Boston.
He's an Affleck and Matt Damon person, isn't he? He really is.
He is. We went to Boston last year, and all he wanted to do was walk into a Dunkin' Donuts, and hopefully someone behind the counter had the accent. I said, buddy, I don't think that's going to happen. But that's something he wanted to accomplish of all things.
Setting his goals low.
We were randomly just hanging out in Boston one weekend. He was just like, you know what? I want to go into a
Dunkin' Donuts. I want a cup of coffee.
I know. Whatever. Boston, we love you. Don't worry.
Her whole family's from Boston. Every time I'm at like any function with her family, it's just ba ba da ba ba.
Oh God!
Like 3 days of da da da.
We just lost 3 listeners from.
Look, I'm
we just lost our 3. Lost our 3 Boston listeners because of this conversation.
Entire words where like 4 syllables are just missing. There's 17 letters. They only pronounce 4 of them. Okay.
I think in the 3 years I've been doing this show, this is the first time the New York versus Boston topic has sort of popped up. And Manny, thank you for starting the war, apparently.
Bombs. Drop the bombs.
Just dropping
them now. That's it.
Just dropping bombs on Boston. But yes, all jokes aside, Boston, if there are any listeners from Boston, I love you. Manny loves you too. He just doesn't like your accent for some reason. But yes, that's enough laughter here for a minute because we have something somber to talk about because it happened today, this morning. It was revealed that Paul Reuben, aka Pee Wee Herman, has passed away. Super bummer. You know, I'm a big Pee Wee fan. In every episode of Haunted Hangover, you can see my Pee Wee doll.
2 Pee-wees back there.
Yeah. My little Pee-wee doll right here, creepy in the back. It does. I think someone once asked me, what is that? I said it's a Pee-wee doll, because I guess it just looks like a little creepy doll back there. But yeah, that's a Pee-wee doll from...
fairly obvious that it's Pee-wee.
I don't know.
It's the mask.
Yeah, the little
mask. I can see people not knowing what that is, because it's just like eyebrows and ears. Yeah. But like, I recognize it. That's Pee-wee.
Yeah, that's a like an original 1980s, like, I don't know if it's Ben Cooper, one of those vacuum form vintage Halloween masks that I got for like $1 at My Unique, which we've mentioned on the show before. Got that for a fucking $1. Wow. I don't know how they lowered the price on that, being an original, but whatever.
I think I got this head over here at My Unique.
There you go.
I think this head's a big rubber head.
I'm buying Pee-wee mask. You're buying severed heads. Hey, but yes, I just wanted to talk about it here on the show because, to me at least, when it comes to celebrity deaths, they don't really hit that often. It don't really affect me that much because in reality, we don't know these people. We know the characters they portray, the personas they put on, movies they've been in, music they've created. And, this one did hit me because I, as a kid, as an adult, massive Pee Wee Herman fan. I own all the movies on Blu-ray. I think I have some of them on VHS. I have them on DVD. I've got all the Pee Wee's Playhouse. I watch Back to the Beach just because of the Pee Wee Herman scene. That's the best part of the movie, when Pee Wee Herman shows up. So like, for me, it hit me because when you think about it, it's like, we think of these people as immortal, and Pee Wee Herman more than likely will be immortal. He will live forever. The character will live forever. But
some of him lives on the floor of a movie theater.
Well, yes, we won't get into that. And you know what, dude? To touch on that, that never really bothered me. I never really understood the big fucking deal about that.
I'm like, it's a porn theater. What do you do at a porn theater? Like, how do you get arrested for that?
Beating your meat?
Yeah, like that's
because he was Pee Wee.
Like, it's
because he was Pee Wee.
That's why. Yeah. That's why. Yeah, they did it for the publicity of it. Although nobody else would have been in trouble for that.
But yeah, just when you think about it, and just seeing your kind of childhood heroes passing away, Macho Man, being a big wrestling fan, Macho Man was one that hit me because I loved the Macho King when I was like 5. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I loved that persona when he was when Sensational Sherry and all that. Mm-hmm. So that one hit me. There's been some musicians that hit me. Typo Negative, Peter Steele. We're both. Yep. Now you're a huge Typo fan. You've been a Typo fan longer than I have, but I too have been a Typo fan a long time. So when Pete Steele passed away, that was a huge bummer. But yeah, man, it just sucks. Just kind of seeing the people that you kind of idolize, which is funny to say when you're little, you idolized Pee Wee, but I did. He was one of my Pee Wee Herman. Anytime he popped up in a movie, on TV, an interview, even Paul Reuben's outside of the costume was still kind of Pee Wee Herman at times. And you saw him in stuff like Blow and Mystery Men and
suddenly what's Pee Wee doing there?
Yeah. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Great. That's like the best gag. Ooh. When he gets stabbed
when the music stops. Yep.
No, and he's all in pain after he gets stabbed. I think the post-credit scene is him still groaning in pain. At the very end.
Kicking the wall.
It's so good. He was a funny dude. All his stuff in all the Cheech and Chong movies, which the eerie thing is, at the time of this recording, he passed away this morning. Or I think he passed away last night. Last night I was on the couch with the wife. And I was watching a Cheech and Chong movie, and I was talking to her about a scene because he pops up, I think, in 1 or 2 of the Cheech and Chong movies. And he's got there's a scene where they're like in a sanitarium or something like that. I don't know if that's the PC word for a psychiatric ward, whatever.
Yeah, I think they're sanitariums.
And what happens is he plays this character, and the whole gag is he's like, I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. And I think it's the fucking most hysterical thing in the world. And I was being really annoying saying it over and over again to the wife. So she was like, shut up, that's annoying. And then the dude passes away today. So I'm like even now at 36 years old, I still find Paul Rubens and and in that movie, he looks like Pee Wee. Because in the 80s, there was a point where he looked like Pee Wee in everything because that was his bread and butter. But yeah, man, R.I.P. Paul Rubens, man. It was just Big bummer. You're a Pee Wee fan too. I know for a fact.
Oh yeah, I mean, I grew up watching it when it was like on, like when Pee Wee was like
Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Saturday. Yeah, Pee Wee's Playhouse Saturday
Yeah.
morning was on. You know, so I remember watching that. I was more surprised learning that he was 70.
Yeah.
That really surprised me that he was 70 years old. I couldn't believe that because I just said my mother's 70 years old. So
yeah,
like, wait,
your
what?
mom's age. It's crazy when you think about it. Like Cassandra Peterson, Elvira is around the same age. She's like 71, I think, or 72, around the same age. It's kind of crazy.
I think I associate her more with that because I know. I mean, I learned when I was like a teenager that she had done a nude photo shoot in the 70s.
All right. We know what Manny was looking at.
Hey,
what you were I don't blame you.
There was a magazine back then. It was Femme Fatale's magazine.
Okay.
And it was all Scream. It was mostly Scream Queen centerfold. So I had there was a Debbie Rochon issue. There was I actually had 2 Debbie Rochon issues. There was one I think with Tiffany Shepis, but it was all they would there was a Linnea Quigley. Yeah. But they used they did photo shoots with him and they showed it was basically Mr. Skin. Like in a magazine form, but for horror movies and
it was like Elvira nude.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
So they reprinted her old photos from the 70s.
Gotcha.
Before she was Elvira.
So you knew she was
around
for a while.
Exactly. So that's why I've always associated with her with being older than especially than Paul Rubens, because I always pictured him as a kid, I always pictured him to be like in his 20s or so.
Yeah.
Which would have put him in mid-50s right about now. Yeah. So the fact that he's like 70 means he was almost 40 when he was doing Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Pee Wee in his prime. Yes. He was almost which is hard to believe when you think he was so thin. And he wore a lot of makeup, obviously, to make his skin was a lot paler and
down
stuff.
So he looked more like a child. But
man-child, that's what he was. So
yeah, I think what's his name too? Bobby's World. What's his name? Howie
Mandel. Yeah.
Also is I think Howie Mandel's in his 60s, right?
Maybe a little younger. I would think. They're all around the same age. And what's funny that you mentioned Elvira. I just read Elvira's book in the last few months, her biography. And she was really good friends with Paul Rubens, and he pops up on the in the book a bunch. She's in Pee Wee's Big Adventure. She's the "Let me have him first." That scene in the biker bar. So it's kind of crazy. Like you look at all these because they were all groundlings, and I learned that in the Elvira book as well. And like Phil Hartman and all those people. All knew each other.
I listened to the audiobook of her
it's
book.
Great.
We put it on we would put it on the Alexa at night and just fall asleep to it. Like every
it's
night
so
we start a new chapter.
Yeah. It's so good.
And so I always assumed he was younger than that. So I was more surprised by his age than anything than him actually dying.
Him passing away, yeah.
Like, I mean, I am still surprised that he's like, holy shit. Like,
he kept it private. Dead. He was sick and he kept it private. It sucks.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So that surprised me more, his age, but I felt like my celebrity death thing was taken away by Sinead O'Connor this week.
Yeah.
That one hit me more. I've always noticed that musician deaths affect me more than other celebrities. Like, I feel like I connect more to the music than like an actor or a performance or something, because
which is interesting considering you're a filmmaker too.
I mean, I guess it's just like, I don't know. Like, I feel like with music, when they're writing and they're singing, it's almost like they're putting their soul on tape.
Yeah.
And listening to the music, like, I feel more of a connection to them personally.
Yeah.
And especially when they do something that personally affected me and changed my outlook on the world. Mm-hmm. Like you said, Peter Steele, when his music changed my entire idea of what metal could sound like. Because up until I heard Typo Negative, metal was just Megadeth and Metallica and Anthrax, like that American kind of metal. Typo was the only American band that sounded like that, and that brought me into, I found the European bands like Him and 69 Eyes and, The Gathering and all that European more like symphonic and gothy metal. So it changed my entire taste in music.
Yeah.
Sinead O'Connor she was an icon.
I agree. I agree.
When I was young, she was the fuck you to the system.
Yeah, that's what she was known for. That SNL, the Pope
tearing up the picture of the Pope, and that was actually her mother's picture. Like that was a picture.
Oh, interesting.
That photo was her mother's photo of the Pope that her mother had framed in her own house. Yeah. So she took her mother's photo of the Pope and ripped it up on TV. Like that was very personal.
I did not know that fact.
And she wasn't going to do that either. She had something else that she was going to do. In the rehearsals, she had a different picture of something else. I don't remember what it was. So when she tore up the picture of the Pope, she did that without telling them she was going to do it.
Yeah, because I think they gave her shit for that, if I remember correctly.
Oh,
right?
It did.
Yeah.
It did. And a couple weeks later, maybe months later, she did a performance, and they booed her. Like as soon as she came out on stage, like it was a big like festival thing, and the entire crowd like booed at her. And there's a famous photo. I'm sure there's a video too. There's a famous photo of Chris Christopherson coming out on stage and hugging her, and oh shit, it's like that she gets. See what I mean? Like Sinead O'Connor like affected me.
Yeah, man. Listen, I respect it, man. Listen, I get it, man. The thing with Sinead O'Connor for me is I was never a big fan of hers. Not that she's not talented, you know what I mean? But like I just never really, I never listened to her like that.
Yeah,
I know the song from Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I like that one. It's a banger.
I Want Your Hands on Me.
Yeah, that song's a banger. So I do know, and the other really popular one that everyone knows, I forget how it goes right now.
Nothing Compares to You.
Yes,
that was a Prince song. That was a Prince song.
That a lot of people, Prince wrote it, right, and she just performed it.
I think he actually did record a version.
Oh yeah, you're right. I think and she just covered it. So
but
man.
So
it's sad, man.
Yeah, Chris Christopherson came out and hugged her on stage, and he like whispered in her ear, like, and he told her, he's like, "Stay strong, don't listen to them. You're on the right side of things." Like he encouraged her.
Yeah.
And it's a really famous photo of him hugging her on stage, and like there's like 50,000 people behind them booing her.
Crazy. Yeah, I have to watch that. I've never seen that performance.
Look into more of her, like not just you. Like I think that people should in general, because she had a big fight with the church about how like women couldn't be accepted in the church, and she became a priest.
And she had a lot of like mental health issues too, if I remember correctly, right? Yeah. So it's tough, man. Listen,
move on from Sinead O'Connor.
Listen, R.I.P. Paul Reuben Sinéad O'Connor.
Yeah.
I just wanted to just shine a little light on it, because these are Paul Rubens for me, Sinead O'Connor for you, two very popular people in pop culture in general.
Couldn't be more diametrically opposed.
I know, complete opposite. And like you said, Sinead O'Connor, struck a chord with you. Pee Wee Herman struck a chord with me. It was, nothing. There's everything about Pee Wee Herman was just feel good. Like if you're ever down or sad, or even times in my life, put on Pee Wee's Playhouse, put on Pee Wee's
Everything's
Big Adventure,
better in the world,
and you feel good. You're like there is nothing negative about Pee Wee Herman. And, and Sinead O'Connor, even though I wouldn't say I'm an expert on her, she touched you, and that's all that's important.
Tired of Halloween parties that really bite? Come to Knott's Halloween Haunt.
Aren't you afraid, Grant?
With dozens of horrifying rides, shows, and attractions.
Scared stiff.
It's the biggest and scariest Halloween party
In the world.
with 11 mind-twisting mazes, monsters, mayhem, and madness. So hurry and get your tickets to Knott's Halloween Haunt before it sells out. They're tickets to die for.
So to shift gears here and go to something a little more upbeat and Haunted Hangover
related.
Something related to Halloween and horror and all
why
that
we're
good
here
stuff
in the first place.
and spooky nostalgia. Yeah, exactly why we're here in the first place. We haven't done one of these episodes in a while. I think we've only done one, and I like to call them the Haunt Memories episode. And it's just kind of an episode where we reminisce about haunted attractions we visited. Not really a review, more just kind of feels and just talking about haunts and kind of any activities we've done during the Halloween season in the past. And I thought Not Scary Farm would be a fun topic to talk about because this is the 50th year anniversary of it, which is fucking crazy to think that they've been doing this shit for 50 years. Now, you've only been one time, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And it was what, like 10 years ago at this point?
10 years ago.
10 years ago, almost to the date. Oh, a few months shy at this
October,
point.
yeah.
Yeah,
10 years.
A few months shy. I've been twice. I went last year, and I went, I believe it was either 2018 or 2019. It wasn't 2020 because nothing was open in 2020 for obvious reasons. And I'm going to say it right here at the top. Not Scary Farm is probably, in my opinion, the best Halloween event at an amusement park. Okay. My opinion. I think everything about the event, the way they put it together, the atmosphere that they create at the park is top tier Halloween haunt experience. Just everything about it, to me, they do it right. Yeah. I love Halloween Horror Nights. I wouldn't say I love, but I've enjoyed Six Flags Fright Fest.
I don't like Fright Fest. But it's such a waste.
Now that's why I say I've enjoyed it in the past, and I've talked. Yes,
I've gone twice, and both times I just didn't care for it. I'm like, I'm never going back to this. It felt like such a waste of time. Like, it's such crap.
Yeah, I've talked shit about it on the show in the past. I think there was an episode where I chose
gone quite a few times too. Though,
dude, I've been going since I was a kid. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you've had more chance for it to be good, to see the good time. I've seen it twice since I'm like 25.
Yeah, you were an adult. Yeah,
exactly. I was like, this is crap. It was crap.
I went as a child where everything just seems a lot special.
It doesn't matter what it is. Everything's
special. Exactly. Everything's so new and amazing. And I went several times as a kid. So I saw it just get worse and worse. And, I'm being redundant here, but I've talked my shit about Six Flags Fright Fest, at least here. Mm-hmm. Well, not in New York, but in New Jersey, our Six Flags.
Yeah.
It's a pretty sad Halloween event. And Halloween Horror Nights, I've also been going to for over a decade at this point. I've been, I think, at least 6 or 7 times. At one point, that was my go-to my go-to Halloween amusement park event for years. I was like, that's the best one. That's the go-to. Until I went to Not Scary Farm. When I went to Not Scary Farm, that sort of swayed me. Where I was like, I think this is the superior amusement park Halloween event. I will say, and I think I've mentioned this on the show as well in the past, that Dorney Park, their event Haunt, pretty good, solid.
I've been to that.
You should go one day. It's much better than Six Flags Fright Fest. I will say that. Better than that.
Saying much.
so really low there comparing it to.
The only thing that I would say is Six Flags is better than is what's that one that's out here? Bayview. Oh my God. Bayview? Not Bayview. Bayville.
Bayville, yeah.
Oh my God.
Won't get into that. I do plan on eventually reviewing them on the show.
I've been to Bayville a couple of times, and they usually have like 7 or 8 houses, and like maybe 2 of them are good. The rest is just.
And I have something I could add, and we'll continue. Don't worry, guys. We'll continue with Not Scary Farms in a second. I will say this: I feel in the last 6-7 years, between right before the pandemic, after the pandemic, haunted attractions have taken a dip. I feel like
definitely.
a lot of them are doing the same shit.
Yeah.
I still love going to them. I love the concept of going to a haunt. I reviewed several here at Haunted Hangover. I've done it, and I plan on doing some this year, maybe with you, hopefully with you. But you know, I feel like there has been a dip in quality, and that's only because I feel like they're all sort of borrowing from each other. At least the independently owned ones, not these amusement park.
Well, I think we talked about this a while ago about that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's come up.
I know the guy who used to run Blood Manor was the consultant for a lot of these houses.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's still doing that as a job.
Yeah, the pandemic changed things for sure.
Yeah, it's quite possible. It's quite possible that if he's not doing this as a job anymore, I don't know for sure. Mm-hmm. But if that's not what he's doing anymore, that could equate for the dip in quality in at least the East Coast.
Possibly.
Because he was the guy that did all the big ones on the East Coast. So if he's not their consultant anymore, you know, that's why Blood Manor was always a step ahead of everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
Because he would build it there, and then others would try it, and then he'd build it for them, and then Blood Manor, he'd get rid of it and do something new.
No, for sure. And I feel like a lot of haunts here, at least here in New York, tri-state area, Jersey, they're all kind of doing the same thing. That's why I haven't been reviewing too many that are in New York anymore, because they're all similar. Now, a few years ago, I reviewed Haunted Overload in, I believe, New Hampshire. Okay. Fucking amazing.
Completely different.
We're talking 5-6 hours away from New York.
Sleepy Hollow's completely different from everything out here,
so
too. Totally different.
It just depends on the people that, you know, are running them. They're creative. A lot of them are doing the same thing. And I think just people in general, you know, and this has come up too on the show in the past, you know, extreme haunts and stuff like that, a certain taste for something a little more intense. That's where people are. So like Boo, you know, and scary clowns are just not, people don't, unless you're scared of clowns, you're not going to enjoy what a lot of these haunted attractions are doing. Now, to go back to Not Scary Farm, and I'm going to go into a little quick brief history on the event itself, but what always stood out to me about Not Scary Farm, and to an extent Dorney Park's haunt event as well, is like Halloween Horror Nights, they don't have any IPs to fall back on. Yeah. And I think that's sort of, you have to get creative. You know, Halloween Horror Nights, and it got a little kind of tiresome because it's like, all right, how many Michael Myers haunted houses are you going to have? How many Exorcist houses are you going to have? Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah,
you know,
like
so
Rob Zombie does one every so often.
Yes.
He's been doing it since literally 1999. It's like 25 years Rob Zombie's been building haunted houses for you. It's like, okay.
Well, you know, and he's had House of a Thousand Corpses, had a house, you know, Saw's had. So for me, you know, I'm at a point now when it comes to you know, my personal taste in visiting these attractions. I want a haunt to surprise me, do something a little different. Now, amusement park haunt events or Halloween events aren't perfect. There's a lot of things I don't like about them, but there's nothing they could do because of crowd control, and I'll get into that a little later. My only con towards all these amusement park Halloween events. But Not Scary Farms, I think what they do is they take certain kind of gimmicks and they're able to sort of make it a unique experience. Like and they recycle gimmicks too, because when I went last year and I went a few years ago, they had the same gimmick, but the theme of the haunt was different. And I had a better experience with one than the other. But, you know, relying on creating new things and keeping it fresh and adding a new haunt or two every year is what I love about Not Scary Farm. You know, if you go 1 year and then you go 3 years later, you are going to experience new things.
Which is the way it should be.
Which is the way it should be, where like Halloween Horror Nights has done like 3 or 4 Stranger Things haunted houses already. They're doing one this year. They just announced a Stranger Things season 4 haunt. And I'm like, I went when they did the first one a few years ago, and I went to the California park. And I'm like, all right, guys, how many, Stranger Things, 4 Stranger Things haunts? Do something different.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I am
curious
curious about
we don't have these, we don't have, the Demogorgons anymore. Now we got freaking
Vecna.
We got Vecna. The biggest friggin' retcon in history.
Yes, which is really weird. Won't be getting into that. but
we'll bitch about that when season 5 comes out.
We'll do that one day. We'll get into that a little later.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're not familiar with Knott's Scary Farm, basically they create this event at Knott's Berry Farm, which is a amusement park in Buena Park, California. That's the area it's in. Now, like I said earlier, this event has been running since 1973. That's fucking crazy. So it's been around, and it kind of holds the record, at least in the U.S., and it would make sense the U.S. because Halloween isn't really celebrated in other parts of the world until like the last 2 decades or so, where other countries are embracing the holiday. But it beats Halloween Horror Nights, Fright Fest, all these amusement park Halloween events by like 40, not even like 20, 30 years at least, because I believe Halloween Horror Nights did it like 90. I think it was 1990 is when they started.
Something like that. I think that this is the 30th.
90,
this was just like 30th or 35th
something like that, yeah. So 50 goddamn years they've been doing this. So I'd consider them to sort of be the masters of the Halloween amusement park event. And it always pissed me off for years. I wanted to go and I never went. And I'm so upset with myself that it took me so long to finally go and check out Knott's Scary Farm, being a big fan of Halloween. And, and look, now I started Haunted Hangover within that time. So it's like, hey, now I have a reason to go at least every other year or so, and check it out, maybe do a review of it, and stuff like that.
I'm going for work. Yeah.
Yeah, for work. Hey, man, I do review them. But yeah, so like most amusement park Halloween events, initially, this was only a 3-night event that would happen. Like the first year they did it in 1973, it was October 26th to the 28th. Not even on Halloween, which when you think about that, I guess Halloween was during the week.
Yeah, I was going to say, was Halloween Tuesday or Wednesday that week?
It must have been, I'm guessing, in 73. 73. And I was just kind of doing a little research, and I thought it was a Wednesday, so it makes sense. Yeah. What's funny now is a lot of these parks... Google. Thank you, Google. What's funny is nowadays when you think of, all these parks, when you look at the calendar of when their events are running, they always run on Halloween. Yeah. All of them.
It goes a week after Halloween at this point.
Yeah, it's like back in the day. Yeah, I know you're right. Like some of them go like November, like 2nd or 3rd, like the first week of November. Some of them even run, which to me is always kind of crazy and wild that they're still, even like November 7th, there's still a haunt, haunt or a haunt event happening. There's one more aspect about this that I think is really unique. When it comes to Knott's Scary Farms or Knott's Scary Farm, it's not plural, there's one farm. Knott's Scary Farm is that they have rides that they re-theme. So they've got this log flume there, and they actually add skeletons to it and zombies. And one year they actually had an Evil Dead themed. They made the log flume Evil Dead themed, which is fucking kind of crazy. I didn't go that year, but I'd watched a YouTube video of it, and I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome. That's probably one of the few times I'm guessing they had an IP and were able to use it, because they're not really known for that. So that's kind of just why I wish I would have gone that year, because YouTube it. It looks pretty. It's like Ash with a chainsaw inside of a log flume ride, which you wouldn't associate a log flume ride in Evil Dead, but it works well when you watch it. You're like, oh shit, this actually works really well. That's really unique to the park.
Log flume, yeah, sure, thin enough thread. Why not?
And I think it's because the log flume ride is Western themed, so they can take a cabin and put a deer head on it that's moving and like deadites and ash and stuff.
Sure.
So it was perfect. They have a mine ride there, and they have all this stuff that they Did you go on the mine ride when you went? It was like a train in a mountain.
Probably.
It's pretty boring, but it's amusing because of how dated it is.
Yeah, you told me we were going to do this, and I said, okay, I've been there, but God, my trip was a flurry.
You did a bunch of shit in like a week.
We did a lot of stuff. I think we flew out there on like a Wednesday, and we came back Sunday, and we just packed as much in.
I've been on trips like that.
Humanly possible. Like
it's exhausting.
Because we were screening Blood Slaughter Massacre. We were at the late night horror film festival.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were at the film festival at least 2 nights. We did Knott's Berry Farm. Knott's Berry Farm. We did Knott's Scary Farm. We did Universal. We did one of the. We went to the. It wasn't the Museum of Death. It was the other one.
I've been to the Museum of Death.
Yeah, it wasn't the Museum of Death though. There was another.
There's a bunch
tragical
of shit
history tour.
Oh, I've never been on that. I've never done it.
Yeah, we went to that store, but they didn't have the tour when we were there because we were there on like a Thursday or something.
Gotcha.
And they only did the tours on the weekends. We went down to the Hollywood Walk of Fame. We saw the sign. You
guys hit every mark in California and near LA, in the LA area.
We tried everything, and it was just a blur. Like everything is so. I don't remember half of the trip.
It's pretty funny too to like, our California listeners. Like I usually go to California during the Halloween season because there's so much Halloween. There's more Halloween shit to do in California than there is here. There's more horror related shit to do out there than there is here. Yeah. Even the Halloween scene in California is way more poppin' than it is out here in New York, unfortunately. So it's kind of crazy that's just the culture, I guess, over there. It's like you got a big Halloween scene, so there is a lot to do. I will
say though that even though that is kind of true, the things that they do have is much smaller.
Okay,
it's a lot smaller. Like Universal is maybe a third the size of what it is here
on the East Coast.
You can do Universal Studios in like a day.
No, you could, Well, Universal's 2 parks in Florida, so
exactly.
You know what I mean?
That too. It's 2 parks. It's soon to be like 4.
3 in a water park. They're getting their third park in 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have the Nintendo Land that they're doing, and they expanded Harry Potter completely.
Yeah,
it's like
I was just there, man.
It's gigantic now. It's gigantic here, and it's about to be even bigger.
Yeah. But I can agree with that. Even Knott's Berry Farm,
a lot smaller.
Knott's Berry Farm is not a big amusement park. It is relatively small. They have a small amount of space to kind of have all these roller coasters and all that stuff. And I'll be perfectly honest. I've never been to Knott's Berry Farm. Like I've never gone to the park when it's normal. Only when it's a Halloween event.
I think we bought the Scary Farm tickets, and then we just bought like the extended so we can come in like 2 or 3 hours early.
Yeah. I buy the same thing.
Yeah, the Scary Farm starts at like 6, so we went in at like 4.
Yeah, I think we did the same thing both times we went, because I know I got on like a couple of roller coasters because usually when you go, it's the roller coasters are on, but everyone's really there for the haunts. Yeah. So when I go, I get on maybe 1 or 2 roller coasters, the log flume, and then you're literally waiting in line if you don't get a fast pass.
Yeah,
which
pretty much.
At all of these amusement park Halloween events, you need a fast pass. You need one at Knott's Scary Farm. You definitely need one at Halloween Horror Nights. You need one at all, because especially when it gets later into October, it gets more and more chaotic. Just the crowds and just the way they run everything.
We were lucky. I think we went on it was early October. It was like maybe the 8th or the 10th or something. So it was early that we went there. Let me see what the date of I found the pictures. I found our pictures. Yeah, October 2nd through the 6th.
It was really early. So you guys were it was really early October. See, when I went,
the crowds were small.
Yeah.
It was,
I think the first time I went was in late September, because a lot of these haunts start in late September. So I went in late September, so it was quiet. And it was like a Thursday, I think, or a Friday night. And it was quiet. And Halloween Horror Nights, we did it that same year the first time. That was we got on everything, barely any lines. It was weird. Yeah. And then last time we went, insanity at both parks. So that's just the way it goes. It's a gamble. You never know. That's why now I just get the fast pass. It's expensive, but
I forgot
at this point I could write it off. So
yeah, again.
So.
I forgot Lynn created a stick figure cutout of you.
Yes. You guys were carrying it around because I couldn't go to California when you guys went. Yeah.
I got a picture of you next to the Charles Bronson's Walk of Fame.
That's amazing. Oh God.
I got a picture of the
great.
Scientology Museum.
Oh God, that's amazing. Oh yeah, I did see the Scientology.
Yeah, she just
museum.
held you up on the popsicle stick.
But yes, moving on. We won't dive into that any further.
Yeah.
Like most of these events, they decorate the park to a T.
Yeah.
Fog everywhere, creepy atmosphere. One of my favorite things that I've seen at Not Scary Farm, just kind of displays and set pieces that they built at the park, is they have this. I believe it's around a fountain, and it's just a kind of pile of giant jack-o'-lanterns. All on top of each. It's great. Like visually, I've taken pictures of it. And by the way, if you're watching this, not only listening to it, I'm going to be putting a shit ton of footage and images from past visits of mine. And I'm guessing some of Manny's too, if he sends me some of these photos, whatever he does have, in this episode. So make sure you watch the YouTube version. But just the way they, darken the park. And there's corners of Not Scary Farm, like, that are pitch black, dude. Like you feel don't know if something. That. Yeah, like you turn a corner and there's obviously scare. Nothing. Yeah, it's just darkness, and there's scare actors in certain scare zones and stuff like that kind of run out. And these people, and I've been to, and I won't say which park, where the scare actors in these scare zones, not the haunts, just the scare zones that you walk through as you walk to different haunts. At Not Scary Farm, dude, they're into it. They're throwing themselves on the floor. I've been to some amusement park Halloween events where they're just kind of standing around drinking a soda.
They use those dark zones to have a cigarette break. Yeah,
it's so weird.
Yeah, it's suddenly really dark, and all you see is the little red glow of somebody's cigarette because they're hiding in the dark. Someone's smoking it. It's like, what the fuck, man? You're supposed to be working here.
You're supposed to be a zombie, my dude. What are you doing just fucking vaping in the corner?
It's keep moving.
But at Not Scary Farm, even when it's like midnight and the park's closing in an hour, I don't think I've ever been to, and again, I've only been twice, so maybe I'm not working with a lot of experience here, but the times I've been, dude, the night is about to end. They're about to close the park, and they're still in character jumping out at people. Both times. And I'm the type of person, I go when that shit starts, and I leave when that shit ends. Like, I stay so they kick me the fuck out because it's expensive usually.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean?
Spending every second I can, yep.
Dude, and they hide in these dark corners, and I fucking I give them so much credit because dude, that's a fucking tiring job. It's got to be exhausting just to kind of jump out and I've never done it, and I don't see myself ever doing it because I just don't see myself doing something like that. But dude, it's a lot of work, and the people at this event always do a fantastic job. They're banging the fucking shovels on the ground next to you when you're not watching, and and they have there's like a new thing where like they create sparks on the floor. Hitting metal. I've seen that at a couple other places, but I know it's a big thing the last few years. They've done away with chainsaws at a lot of these haunts, which I've noticed.
They put a flint end, like on the end of a shovel or something. They cover the tip of it with a flint, so when they scrape it, it sparks up.
Yeah, and at this park, because Knott's Berry Farm has a Western town, and it's like I said before, it's very Western themed. Yeah. So a lot of that goes into kind of the story of some of these lands, I guess, or these like scare zones that they created, because each haunt has a different theme. And when
I was there, they called it the Gunslinger's Grave. That Western section was the Gunslinger's Grave.
It's perfect for a Western themed like scare zone, because there's like people hiding up high and in like saloons and stuff and wearing cowboy hats. I'm pretty sure both times I went, from what I remember, they it was cowboy themed. It was like cowboy themed in that specific area. Then they had like a vaudeville section, I remember, in the back of the park. Then there were people who were just dressed up like I think it's vaudeville, if I remember correctly, that time period where they're wearing like suits and like dancing girls and all that stuff. And like, you know, cigarettes, cigars, throwing knives, you know, one of those people. What movie is that from? I think that's Spy Hard. Cigarettes, cigars, throwing knives.
Cigarettes. Yeah, I think that's Spy Hard. It sounds about right.
But yeah, so that's always been just kind of, they go all out with the way they decorate the actual the park. Now, there is a show, and they discontinued the show in 2019, I believe. I believe it's 2019 was the last time they did it. Because when I went last year, I didn't see it. But when I went in 2018, I remember vividly standing in the back and watching this ridiculous show. And it's called The Hanging Show. That's what it goes by. And basically what it is a pop culture. Did you see the Bill and Ted's Halloween Adventure at Halloween Horror Nights when you went?
I don't remember.
Okay.
No, because at the time, we had done Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando.
Gotcha.
We did like 6 of them in 8 years.
Yeah.
So I don't remember.
You probably saw it.
It's
more
possible.
Than likely.
Yeah, I don't remember what we saw when. I know we saw Bill and Ted, but I don't know if it was in LA or Universal, because the year
Florida,
before and the year after we were in Universal in Florida.
You guys went on both coasts, so you're probably blurring them together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So at the Orlando park, and that show has also been they're not discontinued. They're not doing it anymore. They stopped.
I was there the last year that they did it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I went that same year. So what that show is, you know, there's a very loose narrative, and Bill and Ted are interacting with different, like, kind of current events for the year, pop culture stuff and news, big news things, and just kind of poking fun at it. You know, a lot of Donald Trump jokes in that show, you know, and the Hanging Show at Not Scary Farm is their equivalent of that. Okay. So there's a lot of controversial shit, and I think that's probably why they stopped it. Like, some years they had like Osama bin Laden popping up and like Saddam Hussein and making fun of, like, you know, jokes that happened at the time, you know. So they stopped, and the show was really well done, because I remember the year I went, they had this effect that whenever characters would kill each other or fight, that these like blood bags would explode. And like whenever
I remember this. They did see this.
It was really cool. Like, like a lot of effort went into it.
I'm looking at pictures of it. Yes, I remember this. I remember the guy with. Yes, I'm looking at a picture of the main gunslinger with the shotgun, and I recognize him. I do think we saw this.
And it sucks that they got rid of it, because, you know, the one time I saw it, I was laughing. I enjoyed it, you know. And it was one of those situations where I didn't know what it was. So I just stumbled on it, walked in, and just watched it, you know, just sat there for 25, 30 minutes and watched it. And that was the year it wasn't busy, because usually I kind of skip the shows if it's really busy in the park. But that year I was able to catch it, and I'm glad I did, because it no longer exists.
I remember this. Like, I actually just found a video on YouTube, so I'm kind of clicking through it. I do remember this. It was Terminator was there. The Flying Monkeys of Wizard of Oz are in. I'm looking at the one that we were at, not the exact one, but 2013.
Yeah, dude,
that year.
I recommend anyone that's never been to Not Scary Farm and never got to see the show, go on YouTube. They have several years up there. The year I went is up there. I think the last year they did it is up there. So check it out. Obviously, again, a lot of jokes,
a lot of Star
that
Wars
pertain to what happened in that year.
Sharknado.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So anything that was big in pop culture that year, they updated it, a lot of Disney jokes and Universal jokes and stuff like that, because they keep with the times. So they freshen it up. They freshen up the
Miley
gags
Cyrus.
every year. I thought it was better, and like I said, I liked the other show, but I thought the Hanging Show at Not Scary Farm was far superior.
Peter, pumpkin eater, had a wife but couldn't keep her. Locked her in a pumpkin shell And there he kept her very well.
Now, when it comes to the haunts, and I actually have a list here of some of my favorite ones, and I'm gonna end it, as I run through a couple of the ones that stuck out to me. I'm gonna end with my favorite one, which when I went both times, it was there. Like, they didn't update it; they kept that haunt there, and then they brought it back again. They rebuilt it and they didn't update it. And it's funny because you would think that one I already went to, I'd be like, oh, another one, a new one that year was better. No, that one was still my favorite. But I want to kind of highlight one haunt, and it goes back to something I said earlier about how they kind of innovate these haunted attractions. So one year, the first time I went, they had a haunt that was a zombie haunted house, like a zombie invasion type situation. And at this haunt, dude, they give you a laser gun, a gun that you're running through. Like, dude, this thing is not a little pistol. It's a fucking like machine gun. And you're running through the haunt. And this is how, because I've never seen this at any other haunted attractions I've ever been to. And it just goes to show you how much creativity goes into Knott's Scary Farm. They give you this gun, and you're running through a subway cart. You're running through like streets and very urban setting, warehouses, shooting at fucking zombies. It's fucking and they're like reacting to being shot and water shooting out. Now, when I went last year, they recycled that gimmick. I'm assuming when you went, they didn't have this, because I think this was fairly new in the last 5 years.
No. I've done that, but not there. I've done a zombie thing with the laser gun before, but we did that out here on Long Island.
Yeah, they used to have one in Long Island. Funny enough, I went to that one too, but that was before Haunted Hangover, so I didn't get to review it or make a vlog or anything. When I went last year, they repurposed the guns, right? And the haunt was called Bloodline 1842. That was the name of the haunt, right?
Okay.
And it was a vampire-themed haunted attraction. And instead of being soldiers killing zombies, you're vampire hunters this time, shooting at killing vampires.
Okay.
And I'll be very honest. I don't know why the second haunt, or the second time I did this, not as good. Too chaotic, too much shit going on. Like, you don't even know what to aim at while you're in there. It's like there's just way too much shit going on. And I just remember like shooting at, I didn't even know what the hell, I don't know if I was shooting at the bounty hunter, vampire hunters, or at vampires. Dude, I don't remember. Like, I thought it was just like way too much going on. Yeah. And I didn't feel that way about the zombie one that I went to in a previous year. So really, really fucking weird how I didn't, enjoy it the second time around. But I will say it's really creative. There was another year, and you tell me if when you went, they had this one or not. It was a haunted attraction where they give you a flashlight, and they control the flashlight. There were witches and stuff, I believe, inside of it, and they flash the flashlight on and off, and a sensor, I guess, controls it. And in some rooms, you're in complete darkness. In some rooms, the light is just flashing on and off, on and off, on and off, so you can barely make out what's inside of it. I was like, wow, that was probably the scariest one that year when I went. Have you ever done something like that?
I have, yeah.
Yeah,
I've done that. I don't know if it was that one, but I've done that. That was really cool. Where I'm like, no matter what we're doing, we're fucking with this flashlight, and sometimes it's on, and sometimes it's off. And I literally looked at Lynn. I'm like, they got to be controlling this. Like,
it has to be.
There is no rhyme or reason as to why this is turning off. It's got to be either timed or remotely controlled. I'm assuming timed. Yeah, because to have it remotely controlled feels like a lot of work. Because you're not gonna be the only people in the whole house.
Of course, and I'm sure there's like safety hazards and stuff too that they have to abide by.
It's probably on like some random on off thing, and the actors can see you coming.
Yeah,
so
they can see everything. It's funny because
they can see you because they're in the dark and you have the lights behind you. Yeah, so they can see your silhouette coming and you can't see shit.
It's funny because when we went through that one at Knott's Scary Farm, I remember going through it and just like finding it really eerie because you'd go into certain spaces and it'd be a slow blink. So you'd enter a room, right? And a witch wouldn't be there. 5 seconds later, after it flashes, so dark, light, a fucking witch is right in front of you. So, like, the fact that they were able to time that perfectly was impressive. You know what I mean? And I wish more haunted attractions, at least here in New York or in, Connecticut and in our tri-state area, would do something like that because, it's so unique to that park.
Yeah, it sounds like an RF trigger. Like the flashlight itself has like 5 different settings inside of it. Yeah. And when you go through the doorway, there's an RF signal that switches it to the next setting.
Gotcha. That sounds like you know more about how that works than I do because I have no clue. I remember leaving that haunt and and they got rid of that haunt because when I went last year, they didn't have it. I was like, oh man, that sucks because I was looking forward to going to that one again because of how much I enjoyed it. Yeah. And unfortunately, I don't even have the name of that one in my notes because at the time I wasn't Haunted Hangover.
There was no reason for you to take notes.
I had just birthed Haunted Hangover, so I couldn't even kind of talk about it at the time. Yeah. They also had one called Dark Entities, and it was like The Thing meets Aliens,
like Dead Space.
Yes, like Dead Space almost.
Look at me pulling video game references out.
Body horror.
I played Dead Space a whole once.
Like this gross space alien body horror creatures running around and vibrating floors when you walk into one of them and things bursting out of people's chest. It's just kind of crazy how they're borrowing, obviously, from existing IPs only to,
do their own spin on it.
Make it loose enough where they won't get sued,
Yeah.
One last one I want to touch on before my favorite of all the haunts that they have at Not Scary Farm was called it was called the Grimoire, right?
Grimoire.
You know what it is. I'm pronouncing it wrong. Is that a real thing?
Oh, I know what a grimoire is.
What is a grimoire? Because I did not know what a grimoire is.
A grimoire is like a haunted book.
There you go.
It's a book. Yeah.
So this haunt last year was new for 2022, and I'm sure they'll have. I'm guessing they'll have it again for 2023. Now the Grimoire, this haunted attraction, was obviously based on Strange. They used the book and basically parodied Stranger Things because it was like a group of kids get their hands on this book and they summon a demon. And you're passing through this haunt and you're seeing these kids and it takes place in the 80s. Obviously, wink, wink, hint, hint. It's Stranger Things because there's even like kids wearing like 80s garb and like Converse. Like, hey man, video cameras and shit. And there was a really cool effect where they have this book open and there's this like bright shining light beaming onto the kid and the kid's getting possessed. And I thought it was really impressive. But I will give them credit because it was super cinematic. And even though it's technically not Stranger Things, you kind of know what they're going for with it. And it was effective. And that's smart. Just to kind of go with the times. You know what I mean? And make a haunt that's based loosely on a really popular show. You know what I mean?
I've been to a bunch of haunts in the last 5-6 years or so, and there's always at least one Stranger Things room where it's just there's lights on a wall somewhere and like letters painted and then like videotapes hanging from the ceiling or something. There's always some
there's always
it looks some one room that looks like a living room in 1986 with wood paneling and these types of Halloween lights hanging and stuff, and then a really ugly patterned couch and a TV in the wall, and I'm like, oh, okay, here's a Stranger Things room,
I get it. It makes sense because when you think about it, like, it's such a popular show, you kind of want to capitalize on it.
It's the new iconic. I mean, there's always a boiler room. There's always a boiler room. There's always a slaughterhouse, and the guy with a chainsaw. There's a boiler room and steaming things. There's generally a camp of some type.
There's always a camp. There's always some sort of cursed camp with a guy in a mask killing people.
Yeah, it's the new iconic, recognizable thing, even for people who aren't into horror movies.
I agree.
They recognize Stranger Things now. It's so pop culture now.
For sure.
Everyone recognizes Friday the 13th. You know who Freddy is. Even if you've never seen a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, you know the guy with nails, with razors on his fingers,
And it's funny because a lot of these haunts, and even some of these haunts at amusement parks, like Knott's Scary Farm, like Halloween Horror Nights, like Dorney Park Haunt, like Fright Fest, back in the day, they would just use these characters without permission, and they would get in trouble. And that's what led to... a lot of the people behind the production of these events kind of, all right, we got to create our own shit because we're going to get in trouble. And I've even been to haunts. I've been to independent haunts that still use Michael Myers and Jason.
Because the fact is, it's up until recently with social media and camera phones and everything everywhere, how would you know that they did it? I also think that started... I think that people did that. I think that haunts did that for a long time.
Oh, for sure.
But until I'm gonna guess until Universal started doing their own.
Yeah.
Nobody gave a shit before that.
No, of course not.
Suddenly now Universal. Well, wait a minute. We're doing our own haunted house. You can't do. Nightmare on Elm Street or what, you know what I mean? Because we own the rights to that. You can't do that anymore. And I think that before Halloween Horror Nights existed, I don't think that they were really going after him because they kind of, I guess you could consider it a live performance of sorts.
Yeah. And Universal's got so much money now that they can easily license these characters, for nothing, I'm sure. I'm sure it's probably not cheap, but nothing for them. I'm sure it's at a sort of cheaper price, just to kind of have them in a Halloween event. So, but my favorite haunt from the years I went to Knott's Scary Farms was one called Pumpkin Eater, right? And this haunt, to me, represented Halloween the most. So basically what it is, when you get to this haunted attraction, when you get to the front, there's a jack-o'-lantern scarecrow type. I wouldn't call it a creature, but it's like a sentient jack-o'-lantern that's standing at the front of it. And he's basically saying, Peter, Peter, pumpkin eater. And, the rhyme, the nursery rhyme of, that's why it's called pumpkin eater.
To beat her.
Exactly. Oof. Take that back a little bit there. No beating of wives here.
It's the Andrew Dice Clay version.
Yes. But yeah, they had this really cool jack-o'-lantern that's reciting the Peter, Peter, pumpkin eater rhyme. And when you're walking through it, it's scarecrows and pumpkins and like flesh and limbs and stuff like that. And at one point, dude, you walk through a jack-o'-lantern, a very gory jack-o'-lantern. It smells like pumpkin guts. There's giant seeds and stuff just kind of hanging. When you go through a haunted house, you hit body bags. Instead, it's like bodies inside of pumpkin guts. You're literally walking through a fucking jack-o'-lantern and the smell, and you hear the gushy, like there's effects. Yeah. Dude, probably, dare I say, my favorite haunted house of any kind of all time.
That's
like, cool. It made such an impact on me. And I'll be honest, it wasn't scary. I wasn't scared.
It was just cool.
It was just fucking cool that they were able... You are walking through a goddamn jack-o'-lantern that has basically eaten people. There's corpses and shit inside. It fucking ruled, dude. It was so... And I'm so happy because I remember when I went in 2018... walking through that one and being fucking so impressed by it, going back last year and being able to go through it again. That's how fucking cool it was. And I was like, wow, I hope they keep this one forever. Yeah. And it looks like on their... No, they are. I'm on their website right now.
And they're like new permanent installation.
And it's in. I guess it's been there for a few years, and they're keeping it. It is, in my opinion, the best haunt they have out of all the haunts. It's my favorite, probably just because of the aesthetic and just what it represents, and it feels the most like it represents the holiday the best, you know what I mean? And it is Halloween. It's fucking pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns, for God's sake. So fucking impressive. I hope when you go back one day, it's still there, so you can experience it. You know what I mean? That's how fucking good it was.
My friends, Sarah Marshall is unequivocally guilty. She was sentenced to be hanged, and yet we do not have our justice. We have not carried out our punishment, and without it, this land is left unfulfilled. We demand justice! 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 Justice!
Listen, man, Not Scary Farm, it's amazing to see that they've been doing this for 50 years. I want to go back. I'm assuming you're in the same ballpark as me that you'd love to go back, even though you've only been once.
I think if I ever went to LA again, I would never come back to New York.
So,
I loved being in LA. Like,
I love California, man, too.
The feeling of it, just the feeling, the weather, the whole, like, I felt like I was home when I was there. Like, it just felt home to me.
The movie. That's the filmmaker in us, I think, a little far.
Maybe. I mean, even when I was young.
I feel the same way, dude.
Yeah, when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I was supposed to go to the Academy of Art in San Francisco.
Yeah.
That's the college I was going to go to. Like, I always wanted to go to
California.
the left coast.
Yeah. Go to that left coast.
Yeah, I always wanted to go there. I have an aunt that lives in San Francisco and in Alameda, right outside San Francisco. And I'd always said, well, if anything does, I'd always stay with her for a little while. And this was when I was like 15 years old.
Yeah.
I was always enamored with California and LA, and being there, I understood why Hollywood is there. Like, I felt it. I could see it. I could feel it. Like, everything feels like when you're walking around LA, no matter where you are, you feel like you're on a movie set.
Yeah, I could see that. I could get that vibe.
Did you notice how clean everything is?
Oh, dude, I've been there several times.
It's ridiculous. Like,
I wouldn't say downtown LA by the Chinese theater is pretty disgusting. It's like it's
that's where all the homeless people. That's literally where the homeless people
it's
live.
Literally like Manhattan for us, like 42nd Street, Times Square for us.
But that is like a 10-block radius.
No, for sure.
And LA. Now, I think I mentioned this on the show once before, that I thought I thought LA was going to be like, I equated it to Manhattan. Yeah. Anywhere in Manhattan, you can see the Empire State Building, no matter where you are. You go all the way across into Queens, you can see the Empire State Building. There are some areas here in Long Island where you can see the Empire State Building. Yeah. This is something you can see at 10, 15 miles away. And I always thought the Hollywood sign was going to be that. I thought it was going to be something that you could see from everywhere. But it's bigger and flatter.
Yeah.
So the Hollywood sign is not as high up. You actually have to get to a specific place to see it.
The observatory and all that up there with the satellite or the telescope.
Yeah. And then there's the smog. That keeps it. I found the pictures that we took. We went there. We got there on a Wednesday. We left on a Sunday, and I went out. I remember going out on our hotel room had a balcony, and I went out on the balcony and I took a picture. Like, oh my God, this is gorgeous! Like, I could see into infinity, because it was just like empty. And I'm like, oh man, we got to be. I assumed we were looking toward the water, because it was just like nothing, And then I went out on a balcony on Sunday. And there was a goddamn mountain range there. The smog was so thick we couldn't see the mountains. And I'll send you the picture so you can pop it up and see the difference. Between like 4 days of smog made a difference. Like, I did not believe that it was so bad until I physically saw it. Like, suddenly it was a clear day and holy shit, mountains. And I took so when you put the two pictures next to each other, it's crazy. But yeah, I loved LA, and I felt like I would never come back.
So if you ever go to Knott Scary Farm again, you're not coming back to New York. You're
move in. Dude, I was
in.
there. Well, I remember at some point calling my mother while we were there, and I called her. I said, "So how much would it cost to just box up the dog and ship him?" Because my mother said to me, I remember on the phone call, she even said, she's like, "You always wanted to." She's like, "Look, if you guys want to stay, you can stay." Like she understood. She's like, "If you want to, you go ahead, stay. You come get your stuff when you get it. I'll ship some what you need, and whatever."
All the people,
oh my God,
all the people
don't tempt me.
All the people from California are like, "Don't come here, guys. It sucks." I don't know. See, the thing with me is and when it comes to California, and this is one of many tangents we've gone off in this episode.
Quite a few.
It's kind of like New York, So for me, I get the allure behind it, and I think everything outside of LA is really nice, and that's what I like about California. Yeah. I wouldn't move to LA, like I wouldn't want to live in LA because it's just like fucking here, to me at least. But I think around it is really nice, and there are some really nice neighborhoods and like the more like suburban areas like Pasadena, and I hear it's really expensive out there to live as well, just like here. So give or take,
go to Malibu.
I
want to go to Malibu. I want to be by the dude. You ever watch Californication?
Yes, of course.
That show it spoke to my heart. Like, oh my God, I wanted to live in that show. It was like the worst and best parts of LA. And I said to myself, like, because he's like the worst person in the world, Hank Moody, but I said to myself, I'm like, that is what it is. It felt like a very realistic portrayal of what people are like there, like that really bad people. And at the same time, some people are just very kind-hearted, but never get like New York. I'm like, it's New York without the fucking rain.
Sure. And the
New
winter,
York without
we get.
New York without the seasons.
Yeah. Listen, like I said, as a filmmaker, and you're in the same boat, and now with Haunted Hangover and Halloween and horror and all that stuff. Listen, it is tempting to go out there because they do have They have a bigger scene out there for a lot of this stuff that we enjoy when compared to here in New York City. So listen, man, I get it. I get where you're coming from. I totally agree with you.
It's impossible to be a filmmaker, though. Unless you have money, it's impossible, dude. So, you need a permit. You pull out a camera to take a picture of like a parking meter. You need a permit. Like,
yeah, man, it is what it is. But Knott Scary Farm. Still the best Halloween event to me, best haunt event that exists when it comes to haunts at amusement parks. If you've never been, hopefully this episode gives you a little insight into it, and you enjoyed a lot of the discussion we talked about the West Coast. See, Manny, not a fan of the Boston people, but he is a fan of of you people from California. So
I don't know if I'm a fan of the people. I don't know if I'm a fan of the people there either. I don't know, dude. I got yelled at by a fucking homeless guy from jaywalking.
There you go. No jaywalking in California.
Seriously, I was jaywalking. This homeless guy starts yelling, "You can't do that!" Are you shitting me, dude? You live on the street. You're gonna tell me I can't jaywalk?
So there you go.
You live on that is your house. Go back home.
If there's one thing you learned from this episode is that Manny loves California, does not like that one dude that yelled at him about jaywalking, and that
I don't like those other guys that followed us either, dude. We were walking. I don't remember if we were went to the Jack in the Box or or an In-N-Out Burger. I don't remember, but we were walking there. Next thing we know, there's three guys like half a block behind us following. We made a turn, they made a turn across the street. They crossed it like we're getting fucking followed right now, dude.
It was scarier than anything you saw at Knott Scary Farm.
Arise, my children, for tonight we desecrate Knott Scary Farm with more blood, terror, and gore than ever before. This time, news of haunt will trickle down to the inferno like the blood down our flesh-greased throats. Haunt at Knott Scary Farm. All you fear is here.
So those were some haunt memories at Knott Scary Farm. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at Haunted Hangover. Also head over to hauntedhangover.com for links to the video version of this episode, the audio-only version of this episode, and also our Patreon page, where you can get access to exclusive podcasts and other content that we offer over there.
And go on ahead and give us a review on down there. And wherever it is you're listening to us at, it'll tell everybody whether you like us or not. And it brings us up in the ratings. Sure as hell it does.
And as always, remember, the best cure for I can't even say it. The best cure for a hangover is
more booze, cowpoke.
Yeehaw!
Mini Nosferatu.